Hello everyone, this is Lolly and we are at the Emerald Creek booth 951 here at Creativation, and I just snuck up on Seth Apter to watch what he is playing with today. What's going on here?
Hey gang, well I am playing with my new embossing powders, but in order to do that I need to have something to put them on.
Right.
So I just...
Go figure.
I know. So I've just created this background using distress inks and a little bit of water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to still not get right to the embossing, so bear with me. I am going to add, if I can find, first demo of the day.
A really big table would be nice too.
Well, this is like my craft table.
I mean, I have a big table. And
I know that I'm not on camera, but I'm here.
You're there, and we're talking. So while he's doing that, I just want to pull in here and look at some of his new embossing powders.
Good move.
So, is everyone on this desk new?
Everything in the back row are old.
That's the deep sea.
And then everything in the front row, and these are new. And there's a few others that aren't out yet.
Sedona. Rustic Indigo. Ooh, that's got different layers in it, different depths. Crimson. Tile Sunset. Desert. And it really looks like sand. And Eclipse. Those are the newbies.
So what I'm doing is I'm just getting a little additional detail in the background. So I'm using some grungy background stamps. Just to add a little bit of flavor to make it more interesting.
Make it more yummy?
More yummy, because what's...
if you're adding flavor, it's got to be yummy.
But what I'm going to eventually do is I'm going to add some of my new translucent powders to it, so it will have a faux and caustic look. And in order for it to be interesting, you need to have something underneath the top layer. So this is basically my process almost always, that I go in with some stamps and just add some detail. And very often I go around the edges to add some darkness, just to make it a little bit more interesting.
That really weathers it a lot better too.
Yeah, definitely. And then, because more is more, I will find yet another stamp and maybe a little bit of a different color, and I'll go in and add a little bit more detail.
So as many layers, as many colors, as many textures, because it looks like it's, in depth, and it's not just paper. It looks like he's built up.
Yeah, the more you add, the more layers you add, the more depth you get, and then it looks almost textural, as if it's 3D when it's not. Now, if I were home and had all the time in the world, I would continue doing this till it looked like it was up here. But I'm not. I got to add a focal point. So I'm going to also add a focal point using stamps. And since I can't find the ink that I brought, that I was going to use for that, I am going to just use other ink. How's that? So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm kind of an abstract artist more. So when I create a focal point, it's not necessarily with anything that's traditional, like it might not be a face, it might not be a house, it certainly won't be a bunny. So I'm going
non-objective.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do is use that as a block, and I'm going to just add some stronger stamping using this, so that there is somewhere for the eye to go.
It does, yes.
And then let's make it a little more interesting by adding one down here. And then I'm going to go and move to a focal point. And what I really want, really want, is my black ink, and I can't find it anywhere. It's not on the table. So we're going to just go with the brown, the darkest color I do have.
Yeah, brown. The black would really pop, wouldn't it?
And that's what I really want for when I add the embossing powder. But you make do, right? Okay, so that's going to be our focal point.
Okay.
Yeah,
you got a black pen.
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick outline, but I'm actually going to do a little bit of, just to get a little bit of more marks on here. It's just so much more interesting when you do the faux and caustic technique, when you have something underneath. And actually, let me just take the time and the moment while you're watching. If you're bored, get a snack,
But that it helps to bring it out more since you didn't have the black ink.
Exactly.
So there's always options, folks.
Yeah, there's never a problem or a mistake. So this not only brings it out more, but it also kind of integrates it into the background. And then let's just add, because I can't not add. It's just kind of what I do.
It's in your blood.
It is in my blood. There's just no way around it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be here tomorrow for sure.
Okay, and then maybe even let's do that. So lots of times when people take a pen, they get a little bit hyper because no one knows how to draw.
Right.
So when you call it mark making, anyone can do it. So I am making marks.
Squiggles, right?
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Because anybody can do that.
Just little hash marks and all sorts of lines there. Cool.
Just a little bit of detail, extra detail. So again, if I were at home, I would spend another 3 hours doing that. Okay, so I will spend another 3 hours doing that, and then I promise I'll get to it. I'm just going to go in with one other color, a little bit of a stencil, and add some more detail like that.
The Creativation stage. The drawing will be done on Sunday at the awards ceremony. Winners must be present. And don't forget to
I like that.
on a sweet spot in booth 1025 for some amazing demonstrations. They're going on.
Okay, I think we're good to call that a day. So with the embossing powders, most not all, but most traditional embossing powders are opaque. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
So when you have an opaque embossing powder, it works perfectly with a stamp because you want to stamp your image and you want it to be clear.
Right.
You want it to pop and be seen. With a translucent, you're going to lose some of that because you don't have that strength. So when I have a translucent embossing powder, you get an ability to see through all the layers underneath. So we're going to cover this entirely with several layers of embossing powder.
Wow.
And we're going to go and use some of the translucents. I have a set that's called the Mediterranean kit. It's these beautiful blues and greens. And I have a set that is the Sedona kit, which are these beautiful yellows, oranges, and reds. And you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to stick with the same palette and make this sort of a monochromatic piece. And I'm going to think about using these colors.
Okay.
And you need something to apply your embossing powder with, so we're going to use a dirty, as they always are, embossing pad. And I'm just going to go across.
Is that your favorite medium? Because I'm always trying to figure out what's the best for big pieces like that.
Versamark is my favorite, yeah. I just find, and you can actually see it, even though it's clear, it's so wet
shiny.
and juicy.
Yeah.
It's just a beautifully sticky pad, so I like it. And I'm going to get a new sheet to put underneath, because now this sheet is sticky and I don't want my embossing powder to stick to that.
Good idea.
And I'm going to let's go with a yellow first. So this is called Maize. As you can see, it's quite a bright yellow. I'm going to just pour it on. And the way I pour it with pieces like this is I just pour a bunch at the edge, and then I love this magical effect. I just then tip it down.
Oh, wow.
That just is like a boomerang waiting to happen, back and forth and back and forth.
Just film that, and what is that called now, where people watch those things over and over again?
A GIF or a boomerang?
No, where like there's something.
Oh, the
about
looping
where
stuff? Yeah, I don't know.
Put on a loop.
Cut things up or squash things that have glitter in them.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name either. I'm going to turn it that way because that's the viewer's view.
Oh, nice.
So then I have a heat tool. This is a Wagner heat tool, which is my favorite.
Yep.
It has a little bit more power and heat than the traditional ones. And so you have a relatively quick process.
You can move a lot of the way, just...
Alright, so there it goes. It's just magically delicious. I could watch embossing powder melt.
That is interesting. So, I would think that would be a solid yellow coating on this, through which you wouldn't be able to see anything that he stamped underneath. But look at this.
So the translucency allows you to get this effect. You get this beautiful waxy coating. It has just a slight shine to it.
It's like a tint.
And it's a tint, exactly.
Sorry.
So when you're, you should think about the translucents almost like translucent paints. They have the same properties in terms of how they work. So, for example, sometimes I always work on black. I love the black background. And so sometimes I grab a yellow paint and I'll think, wow, bright yellow, so vivid off the background. But if I grab a yellow translucent, when I lay it on the black, it literally disappears. So with these powders, you have two things to think about. The tricky part is you have to figure out which powder works with which background.
Right.
But the beauty of that is that every powder works differently with different backgrounds. So even though I have a yellow here, this actually is 15 different colors because it looks different over red than it does over green than it does over blue.
Because it looks different over every color of ink you have underneath it too.
Correct. So then what I can do is let this cool because I want to get the wax to be a little bit thicker. So you can kind of see it's got this beautiful sheen.
So you're going to do another layer on that, aren't you?
I am, because in my book, more is more.
So would you, wow, that's smoking. Yes.
Oh, that's
just
a little bit too close to the plastic.
You know?
That's why it's smoking.
So
thank you
would
for that.
you ever, like you're going to repeat another layer on there, would you use one of those on half of it instead of covering the whole thing?
Oh yes. So, if, for example, maybe what I'd want to do is let's get a little artsy and creative. I could just go with another layer of maize. If I like that, but want a thicker, more rich or more depth, I could do that. I could just shift to a whole nother color and go orange, and the orange on the yellow, the maize, and I should call them by their real names. The Sedona on the maize will look differently than the Sedona on a plain background. So it's a lot about experimenting. But one of the nice things you can do is you can be a little bit more free than just coat the entire surface with one color. So we're going to do a little bit of mixing and we'll see what happens. Like,
or you could also just like not do a whole coat. You could
absolutely
do like random splotches, right?
Exactly.
Oh, now this looks so dark.
Go.
Look at this.
This is very dark. This is crimson, and this is the darkest of the translucents. But I'm going to really do my best. It kind
of reminds me of an antique brick building in a way.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. And I'm going to just kind of shift it a little bit to make it a little bit natural. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to use some of the Sedona.
You're not going to shake that off first, though, the excess?
No, you know,
save it
like that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I guess I could save that. I was thinking there was so little there, I was just going to...
Right. It's okay. You're on video. We're not expecting you to...
But your viewers should do it right. Should see me do it right.
There you go.
Yeah, that's important. So the Versamark stays pretty wet.
The Versamark will stay wet for quite a long time.
That's another thing I've struggled with.
And now I'm being less specific here. You know, before I kind of did the edges, now I'm really just trying to get some looseness, randomness. And then I am going to add a little bit more maize as well. And you know what? I know I've got to speed up a little bit, but I'm going to take a little bit and just add a little bit of color contrast with a different color family. And see what that looks like.
And is this one more opaque, this blue?
This is all translucent. This is the Mediterranean set.
I mean, it's just gorgeous as it is, but you know, I know you're going to heat set it.
So now I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to pour it back in because now the colors are contaminated.
But do you save it?
Yes, I usually, well, at home I have lots of containers that are mixed.
You could use it for something, yeah, since we're random anyway, but...
Correct.
We were just talking about...
Thank you. Thank you.
We were just talking about heat tools yesterday, and I said, well, from what I hear, Seth Apter recommends the Wagner.
Oh, that's so funny, and now I'm using it. So I personally like things more blended, so when I see the solid line there, that for me, I don't care for that. So one of the things you can do is while the surface is wet, you can put in more powder. So what I'm going to do is heat this area here, and then I'm going to add a little bit more once this is
wet,
hot and molten wet, so that it's a little bit less liney, and it's a little bit more organic.
And the little chunks, without shaking off the excess, is a darker, more opaque than the translucent, looks like.
The little chunks?
It's giving it more texture because you've got, you've got chunks.
So a lot of our powders, all of them have multiple crystals in them, and a lot of times what we try to do is we've made these translucents, we call them slightly opaque. So they have this little variability in it, so you get these little darker crystals, little lighter crystals. So let's just reheat everything. There we go. And you know it's done when you see that, but also you can see how clear it becomes.
Yes, it's showing up really beautifully on video.
And everything underneath will then be very evident as opposed to when it's not
Right.
melted.
When it's
it
not
looks
shiny.
not shiny and cloudy.
But I love the way you refer to this as like a wax coat, like almost a waxy coating on there.
Yeah, I consider this like a faux encaustic technique. Now we're not going to do this now just because of time, but you can embed objects in here as long as they're flat. You can take a rubber stamp and you could, actually let's do that one thing. I think your viewers would like that. Do we have a minute?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm still good on time.
Let me just heat this. So what you can do,
So it needs to be warm, right?
yes, but I'm going to just heat the whole surface so it's, sometimes people
Right.
think it's completed, completely melted when it's not, and that's one thing I love about the Wagner.
And I think
is
you have
that-
to get your eyes looking at it at the right angle to see how shiny it is.
Okay. That's yeah, I like that, the variability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with another rubber stamp. I'm going to go in with this one, which we used underneath,
Okay.
and I'm going to ink it.
And we do stress rubber for this, right? Not
Yes.
the polymer.
I use rubber. You know, I've never tried this with polymer.
I'm
So-
wondering if this would take the heat better.
Yeah, I think this does, and this doesn't do nothing to your stamp. So you don't have to ink it, but I ink it because I like the shadow effect it gives.
So I see you're keeping it warm while you're inking your stamp.
Yeah, so in a split second while it's still hot, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to watch out that I don't burn my hand, because this is molten hot. And then when I lift this up, you're going to see almost like a wax seal. It's embedded in there.
Oh,
And
that
you get
is,
the
yes.
actual texture.
Oh, that is really cool.
Which I think is really neat. And it actually pulled up just a little bit of the color as well with the pressure, and I actually really like that because there's some contrast there.
Then you can also ink over that too, or distress
Sure.
over it.
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
really
Yep, I
great.
could just go ahead and do that and fill it in and darken it but I actually like the contrast. And then the rubber stamp is, I don't clean anything, but if you wanted to, you could wipe with the baby wipe, but literally the rubber stamp will not be
But you
affected
did
at
say
all.
at one of the classes I took from you, though, if you're using acrylic paints, for instance,
Oh,
to
yeah,
clean,
you wanna clean
your
them
stamps,
immediately.
because if you don't clean it right away while it's damp, you won't get that clean. It'll kind of ruin it.
Correct. It'll seep into the crevices,
All the
and then
grooves,
it'll.
yeah.
Now the other thing is that one of the
Oh, it's gorgeous,
the beautiful
Seth.
things about this last thing is that whatever you do underneath it, you can do over it. So if I feel like I need a little bit more detail,
You can still get your markers out.
yeah. So I'm going to take one of these. This has this color, so it has some contrast, and I'm going to kind of go over like that
And it's writing
and bring it out,
on
and
the
it's writing on the
embossing.
embossing.
Although it looks slick.
Everything works on top. Anything
May
that
I
works
touch
underneath.
now?
Oh, absolutely. It's nice and cool.
Oh my gosh, people, look, can you see the shine? It looks like a bathroom tile almost. Look at that. It looks way thicker than it is. That,
Yeah, it has
and that
that
was
depth,
with 2
right?
coats.
So,
Beautiful. Sign your work. Always sign your work.
And who gets to get this? Nobody else but Lala.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing with us. I love all
Absolutely,
these new
appreciate you
products.
coming
Seth.
by.
Bye.
See you guys. Take care. Thanks for watching.